Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to wonder, what is consciousness? Really think about it. Not just as a vague sense of awareness, but as the very thing that allows you to think about it in the first place. It's there when you wake up, it shapes every experience, and yet no one fully understands it. It's the most intimate part of who you are, yet it feels like the biggest mystery in the universe. What if I told you that consciousness isn't just in your head? That it's not confined to your brain or even to your body? What if consciousness is the secret thread that connects you not just to your surroundings, but to everything? And what if this discovery could radically transform how you see yourself, your life, and the universe? Before we dive in, let's start with an image. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a vast, starry sky. The stars aren't just points of light, they're alive, vibrating with an energy you can feel deep in your chest. Now imagine that same energy is what animates you. You're not separate from it. You are it. That's where this story begins. To explore this, let's rewind. Think about when you were a kid. You probably had moments of pure, unfiltered awe. Maybe it was looking up at the stars or feeling the wind rush past as you ran. In those moments, you weren't thinking. You were just being. That's consciousness at its most raw and fundamental. But as we grow up, we bury it under layers of thought, routine, and distraction. Here's the thing: scientists and philosophers have been trying to pin down consciousness for centuries, but it's like trying to catch a shadow. Some say it's a byproduct of the brain, a kind of biological illusion. Others argue it's the very fabric of reality itself. What do you think? Could consciousness be something bigger than we've ever dared to imagine? Now, let's stretch our perspective. Picture the universe as a giant ocean and your individual consciousness as a wave. The wave feels separate, doesn't it? It rises, it falls, it disappears. But is it ever truly separate from the ocean? This is the cosmic secret of consciousness. Your awareness isn't just yours. It's part of something infinite. And when you start to understand that, it changes everything.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
But here's the catch: we don't live like that, do we? We spend most of our lives caught in a tiny bubble of thoughts and worries. What if I don't succeed? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not enough? These thoughts are like static, drowning out the signal of something deeper. The irony? The thing you're looking for, the clarity, the connection, the meaning, it's already there. You just have to tune in. Let's get practical. How do you begin to reconnect with this greater consciousness? One way is through meditation, not as some mystical ritual, but as a way of quieting the noise in your mind. Close your eyes and try this. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and then exhale. Feel that pause between breaths? That's the space where your individual awareness meets the infinite. It's subtle, but it's there. Now, I know what you might be thinking: that sounds nice, but what's the point? Here's the point. The more you tune into that space, the more you'll notice something profound. Your thoughts aren't you. Your emotions aren't you. They're just waves on the surface of the ocean. The real you is the vast, limitless awareness underneath. And this isn't just philosophy, it's science. Recent studies in quantum physics suggest that consciousness could be fundamental to the fabric of reality, more fundamental than time or space. Think about that for a second. Your consciousness might not just be observing the universe, it might actually be shaping it. Here's where it gets wild. If your consciousness is part of something infinite, then your potential is infinite too. The only limits are the ones you believe in. Let me ask you, what would you do if you truly believed that? How would your life change if you stopped seeing yourself as separate and started seeing yourself as connected to everyone, to everything? This isn't just a thought experiment, it's an invitation. Because the more you wake up to this truth, the more you'll realize something astonishing: the universe isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. Let's get real. Everything you know about the world, every fact, every experience, every relationship exists because you're conscious. Without awareness, nothing would matter, and nothing would even exist in your experience. So here's the burning question: if your consciousness is the lens through which everything is seen, could it also be shaping what you see? Consider this: your brain doesn't directly experience the world. It's dark, silent, and floating in a skull. What it's doing is interpreting signals, light waves, sound waves, electrical impulses, and creating a picture. But is that picture real, or is it just a convincing story your mind tells? If reality is filtered through consciousness, then what happens when the filter changes? Let's take a small experiment. Think about a moment when you felt pure joy. Go ahead, bring it to mind. Notice how just focusing on it brings up feelings, sensations, maybe even a smile. That's not the memory doing that, it's your attention. You're creating that experience in the present simply by shifting your focus. So let's flip the question: if consciousness can recreate joy from a memory, can it also create joy from thin air? Can it rewire how you see the world, not based on what's out there, but on what's happening in here? The evidence says yes. Studies show that what you expect to see actually changes what you perceive. Your mind literally fills in the gaps. But here's the kicker: this isn't just about perception, it's about reality. Quantum physics has thrown a wrench in how we think about the universe. At the smallest level, particles don't even seem to exist in fixed states until they're observed. Let that sink in. The active observation of consciousness doesn't just passively watch the universe. It participates. It's like reality itself is unfinished until you interact with it. Here's where this gets useful. If the world you experience is shaped by your consciousness, then changing your state of mind could shift the entire game. Let's break it down. Most of the time you live on autopilot. You think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, react to the same triggers. It's like walking through a forest and always taking the same path. The more you walk it, the deeper the trail becomes. But what happens when you step off that path? When you become aware of those automatic thoughts and decide to choose something else? It's like blazing a new trail. And over time, that new trail becomes the dominant one. Here's how you do it. Start by noticing your mental patterns without judgment. Catch yourself in the act of thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "this will never work." Then, instead of fighting it, ask, "What if I tried a different thought?" Don't force it, just introduce a new possibility. You're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing the lens of your consciousness. And that changes everything. Let me paint a picture. Imagine two people standing in the same storm. One sees disaster, destruction, chaos, fear. The other sees opportunity, renewal, growth, a chance to rebuild. The storm is the same, but their realities are completely different. Why? Because reality isn't just what happens, it's how you experience it. And how you experience it is shaped by what you bring to it. So what are you bringing to your reality? Take a look at your life, the relationships, the challenges, the triumphs. Are you living on autopilot, reacting to everything? Or are you aware of the role your consciousness is playing in shaping all of it? The moment you start noticing this, the game changes. You stop being a spectator in your life and start becoming a creator. This isn't just theory. Neuroscience backs it up. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on where you place your attention. If you focus on problems, you reinforce the neural pathways for stress and anxiety. If you focus on solutions, you build pathways for creativity and resilience. You are literally sculpting your brain and your reality with every thought you entertain. But let's take it even further. If consciousness is the architect of reality, then could it extend beyond you? Think about this when you walk into a room where people are laughing and joyful. You feel it, don't you? That energy isn't contained in one person. It spreads. Now, scale that up. What if the energy of your consciousness, your thoughts, your emotions has a ripple effect on the world around you? Science is starting to catch up to this idea. Experiments have shown that groups of people meditating together can lower crime rates in cities. Sounds wild, right? But it makes sense if consciousness is interconnected. If your awareness isn't just inside you but part of a larger field, then what you think and feel isn't just private, it's part of the collective. So here's the challenge: if your consciousness has that kind of power, how are you using it? Are you feeding the world more fear, more division, more chaos? Or are you putting out something better, something that lifts people up, even in small ways? The choice isn't abstract. It's right here, in every moment. And this is where things get exciting. When you shift your awareness even slightly, you don't just change your reality, you change the world around you. You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in a drop. Here's the crux of it all. If consciousness is shaping everything you experience, then the real question isn't whether you're using it. You're already using it every second of your life. The real question is how intentionally you're doing it. Most of the time, you're not. The mind runs on loops, habits, fears, assumptions. But what happens when you break those loops? What happens when you take control of the architect? Think about your mind like a flashlight. Wherever it shines, that's what you see. Shine it on problems, and that's all that exists. Shine it on possibilities, and the world shifts. Most people don't realize they're holding the flashlight. They think it's being controlled by everything outside of them: news, opinions, circumstances. But it's not. It's in your hand. Always has been. Let's break this down practically. The first step to mastering consciousness is to recognize its patterns. Every thought and emotion you have is like a ripple in a pond. Most of the time, you're reacting to the ripples without even noticing where they came from. But when you slow down, when you really observe, you can trace those ripples back to their source. And here's the truth: the source is always you. Let's get clear on this. Right now, what's dominating your thoughts? Is it frustration, ambition, fear, excitement? Trace it back. What belief is sitting underneath that? Maybe it's "I'll never have enough," or "I need to prove myself," or even "I can't fail." These beliefs act like invisible scripts, running in the background, shaping how you see and respond to the world. But here's the secret: a belief is just a thought you've repeated so many times, it feels true. Change the thought, and you change the belief. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. Your mind will resist. It's wired to cling to familiar patterns, even if they're harmful. That's survival instinct at work. But you're not here to just survive. You're here to live. And that means choosing thoughts that serve you, not control you. Start small. Pick one belief that's been holding you back. Maybe it's "I'm not good enough." Every time it shows up, catch it. Don't fight it, just notice it. Then replace it with a new thought: I am more than enough. Repeat it, even if it feels fake at first. You're not trying to believe it immediately. You're just planting the seed, and seeds grow. Now let's level up. If consciousness creates reality, then emotions are its amplifiers. A thought is powerful, but a thought charged with emotion is unstoppable. That's why memories tied to strong feelings stick with you. Emotion cements experience into reality. So if you want to shift your reality, you can't just think differently. You have to feel differently. Here's how you do it. Start by noticing your emotional baseline. Is it stress? Anxiety? Gratitude? Most people don't even realize they have a baseline. It's like background music that plays all day. The goal isn't to force yourself to feel good all the time. That's unrealistic and exhausting. Instead, it's about gradually raising the baseline, one small step at a time. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to shift your emotional state. But let's skip the cliches. You're not just making a list of things you're thankful for. You're tuning your consciousness to what's already working in your life. Start with something small, like the sensation of warm sunlight on your skin, or the sound of laughter. Let yourself really feel it, even for a few seconds. That's the key: feeling, not thinking. The more you practice this, the more your emotional state becomes a tool, not a reaction. You stop being at the mercy of circumstances and start choosing how you experience them. And when you do that, the external world starts to shift too. Why? Because your perception changes, and perception is the foundation of reality. Here's where things get even more profound. If consciousness connects everything, then the way you treat others isn't just about them, it's about you. Every thought, word, and action you put into the world is like a boomerang. It comes back. This isn't karma in some mystical sense. It's physics. When you act with kindness, generosity, or even curiosity, you're tuning your consciousness to those frequencies. And the world mirrors it back. So the question becomes, how are you showing up? Not in some abstract, philosophical way, but in the most tangible sense. How do you treat the cashier at the grocery store? How do you respond when someone cuts you off in traffic? These moments aren't insignificant. They're the building blocks of your reality. Every interaction is an opportunity to shape your consciousness and, by extension, your world. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. When you slip up, and you will, don't spiral into guilt or frustration. That just feeds the old patterns. Instead, pause, reset, and choose again. Consciousness isn't fixed. It's fluid. And every moment is a chance to realign. Finally, let's talk about the big picture. If consciousness is infinite, then what does that make you? Not just a person, not just a collection of thoughts and experiences, but a point of awareness within something boundless. When you fully grasp this, even for a second, everything shifts. Fear loses its grip, and comparison fades. And you realize that the universe isn't something you're in. It's something you're part of. But here's the real mind bender: if consciousness connects everything, then your growth isn't just about you. It's about the whole. Every time you expand your awareness, you contribute to the expansion of consciousness itself. Think of it like lighting a candle in a dark room. Your light doesn't just illuminate your corner. It makes it easier for others to see too. This isn't just a responsibility. It's a privilege. You're not here by accident. You're here because consciousness wants to experience itself as you. So the real question isn't what's the meaning of life. It's what are you going to do with the infinite potential of your awareness, and if that doesn't change everything, what will? There's something we need to confront directly. Most of what we believe about life is rooted in separation. You're taught that you're here and everything else is out there, that you're a single person navigating a world filled with billions of others. But is that actually true? Or is it just a useful illusion that's gone too far? Think about the way your body works. You have trillions of cells, each doing its job, each with its own intelligence. But do you think of yourself as separate from your cells? No, you experience yourself as one unified being. What if the same thing is happening on a much larger scale? What if humanity, nature, and the universe itself are like the cells in one giant organism, connected, interdependent, and alive? Here's why this matters. When you see yourself as separate, it creates struggle. It's me vs them, us vs the world, and mine vs yours. This mindset drives conflict, competition, and a constant need to prove your worth. But when you realize the illusion of separation, it changes the game. Suddenly, it's not about winning, it's about harmonizing. Because when one part of the system thrives, the whole system benefits, including you. Let's make this real. Think about relationships, the most obvious place where the illusion of separation shows up. When you argue with someone, it feels like a battle, doesn't it? Your side, their side, and a big wall of tension in between. But what if the argument isn't about you vs them? What if it's about both of you trying to get back into alignment? That's what connection is, alignment. And alignment only happens when you stop seeing the other person as the enemy and start seeing them as part of the same whole. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone or let people walk all over you. Far from it. It means recognizing that every interaction is an exchange of energy, and you get to choose what energy you bring into it. Are you adding to the disconnection, or are you helping to bridge the gap? This isn't just about being nice, it's about being effective. Because when you align with others, you create something bigger than yourself. But let's zoom out even further. The illusion of separation isn't just personal, it's global. Look at how we treat the planet. We act like it's a resource to be used, rather than the living system that sustains us. We draw lines on maps, call them borders, and fight over them as if the earth cares. This mindset, this illusion, is what's driving the biggest challenges we face. Climate change, inequality, polarization, they all stem from the belief that we're separate. But what happens when we start seeing the truth? That the air you breathe was exhaled by a tree. That the water you drink has traveled through clouds, rivers, and countless living beings before reaching you. That every action you take sends ripples across the web of life. When you see this, the question isn't what can I take, it's what can I give, because giving to the whole is the same as giving to yourself. This isn't abstract, it's immediate. Start small. The next time you throw something away, think about where away actually is. The next time you see someone struggling, notice how their energy affects yours. These moments might seem tiny, but they're not. They're cracks in the illusion. And through those cracks, something bigger starts to shine through. Here's the paradox: the more you realize you're connected to everything, the more your individuality shines. It's not about losing yourself. It's about discovering that the unique spark inside you is part of something vast and timeless. And when you express that spark fully, you light up the whole system. This is why creativity matters. Every time you create, whether it's art, ideas, or even moments of kindness, you're contributing to the expansion of consciousness. You're adding something new to the collective, and the more you create, the more alive you feel. Because creation isn't something you do, it's something you are. Consciousness itself is creative, and when you align with that, life becomes electric. But let's get brutally honest. None of this matters if it stays as theory. The real challenge is living it. In a world that thrives on separation, us vs. them, mine vs. yours, success vs. failure, how do you stay connected to the bigger picture? How do you live from a place of connection when everything around you screams compete? The answer isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. Every moment is an opportunity to choose differently. When fear tells you to close off, choose openness. When anger tells you to attack, choose understanding. When doubt tells you to shrink, choose expansion. These choices might seem small, but they're not. They're how you train your consciousness to operate from truth, not illusion. And here's the thing, the more you make these choices, the easier they become. It's like strengthening a muscle. At first it's hard. Your mind will fight back. But over time, the new patterns take hold. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself living in alignment, not because you're trying, but because it's who you've become.